Okay, so injuries-wise, JC won't practice today, just with the knee. Hoop still recovering from the appendectomy. We'll hold Miles out today, just with being cautious with an ankle. But other than that, we should be all ready to go. Big challenge this week in our building versus the Las Vegas Raiders, a well-coached football team on offense, a ton of weapons. Obviously, the tight end, the receivers, the back, an extremely skilled quarterback that can make every throw. Defensively, the scheme, we know a little bit with Coach Gunther, and then they add Rod Marinelli to the group, and you see his influence on what they're doing. So it's a very physical front. It's a very disciplined, sound defense. They rotate coverages really throughout. They do a nice job. So we're going to have our work cut out for us, but we've got to have a great week of practice and get ready. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Coach. Our first one is going to come from Zach Jackson.
Hey, Coach, Peoples-Jones has been ready when you've needed him. So can you just speak to, such a young guy, shortened off season, and then healthy scratch at the beginning of the year. Where has he kind of made his biggest strides and kind of shown you guys that he'd be ready if you needed him?
Yeah, Zach, he's done a nice job at practice. He's always, I know this sounds simple, but he's always in the right place at the right time. And getting lined up is not sometimes an easy thing for young players at the wide receiver position, but we're able to line him up at multiple positions. And then when he's had opportunities in practice, he's made a play on the ball. And that's really going all the way back through training camp. So he's done a nice job. He studies very hard. He does a great job in the meeting room. Obviously provides us with some special teams value as well.
Thank you, Zach. Scott Petrick will go to you.
Hey, Kevin, when you talk about holding out Miles for caution, does that mean you expect him to practice later in the week?
I would expect that, but we'll gather more information and know some more later in the day.
Okay, and then with Baker, the way he played Sunday, how much confidence do you think he can gain from a game like that?
Yeah, I hope all of our players gain confidence when you get a W in the fashion we did, obviously there for Baker and being as efficient as he was. You always hope to build off those type of things, but I don't think Baker lacks for confidence.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Fred Greetham, you're up.
Hey, Coach. KhaDarel Hodge, activated. Do you expect him to hit the ground and be able to play this week?
I do.
You expect him to play, move back where he was before, like, maybe even start opposite Landry, or is that still to be determined?
I'd say still to be determined, Fred. We'll see how practice goes, but I do anticipate that he'll be available on Sunday.
Thank you, Fred. Nate Ulrich, you have our next question.
Hey, Kevin, I know you just talked about Baker and his confidence, but how nice is it to see him get recognized with the Player of the Week award, and just kind of what does it say about him that, I know it's the offense as a whole, and you can say other guys, but for him to start 0-5 with a pick coming off that Steelers loss, playing hurt, really, what does a Player of the Week award say about him considering those circumstances?
Yeah, obviously, anytime you get recognized like that, I think it's great for the guys. I'm sure Baker would say this, maybe did say this, but you get recognized individually, and you really got to share in that with the rest of your team. And just think about the catches that the guys made in that game, the contested catches, the Richard high point in the one at the end, Dave Njoku's catching in the end zone. It takes those guys to have a quarterback have the numbers he had. So great individual award, happy for Baker, but I think it's also a testament to the entire group.
Thank you, Nate. Daryl Ryder, you're up next.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you about a couple of those throws that Baker had. You just alluded to, to the throw to Njoku and the one to Richard. Obviously, the one to Peoples-Jones was not an easy throw to make. Is that a mechanics thing or a confidence thing? Because it just seemed like Baker got hot, and when he threw it, everybody was catching it.
I'd say it's both, Daryl. I think when you're having success at the quarterback position, your mechanics have to be right to maintain accuracy. And then obviously confidence goes a long way for a trigger man. And again, I go back to that's the Baker I've seen at practice. I mean, he lets it rip because he trusts his guys.
And then when you see, Donovan Peoples-Jones step up, Njoku step up, Higgins stepping up, you as a play caller, losing Odell, we've talked about that, just how difficult that is for you guys. And you're going to have to overcome that. But you as a play caller, when you look across the board, watch that film and see all those guys step up, does that put your mind at ease and give you the confidence that you can count on those players and believe in them?
Yeah, Darryl, I think you gain confidence through the week just watching those guys practice. The guys you mentioned, they get a ton of reps during the week. So I see them do it. I know they're working hard in the meeting rooms. I know their coaches are working hard with them to get them ready. So once Sunday rolls around, you feel really good about the plan based on the week that you've had.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you, Daryl. Jeff Shadell, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, can you, first off, Kareem Hunt, how is he feeling? And could you tell by the way, he just seems to drag guys, 3 or 4 guys with him every time he has the ball.
Yeah, I think he's feeling pretty good as you can feel on a Wednesday after, I think, 21 touches or whatever it was. That's what Kareem does. He makes plays. He breaks tackles. He runs through tackles, provides great leadership on the sideline. But yeah, he was fighting for extra yards, and that's just the person he is. That's the player he is, and I know that fires up the offense, and I know it fires up the entire team.
Mary Kay Cabot will go to you next.
Yeah, Coach, just wondering, is there anything to the notion that perhaps Baker Mayfield does go through his progressions a little bit differently, or, approaches the game in a different way when Odell's not out there and maybe spreads it around better or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So you basically just kind of reject the the sort of the narrative that is going around everywhere right now that Baker is possibly better off without Odell in the field.
I do reject that, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Go to Tom Withers for our next question.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Coach. Hey, Coach, when did you teach Denzel that levitate underneath the blocker and make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage move?
I wish I could take credit for that. That's an old Antoine Winfield Sr. move right there.
Right. None of those for you at Penn?
No.
Hey, so back to what Mary Kay brought up. I know you do reject that notion, but Kevin, could there be a lessening of the pressure on Baker, if that's the right word, to get the ball to number 13?
Tom, I really don't think so. Again, Odell's a great, great player. We're going to miss him. I feel sick still without him in the building, but our offense is based on 11 guys and the quarterback going through his reads. And it was like that with 13 in there, and it'll be like that without 13 in there.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Tom. Next up, Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Kevin, I think a lot of that speculation comes from, some of the data, the splits between, Odell being on the field or off the field, or, targeting other receivers other than Odell. How do you explain sort of the analytical differences between when Baker has targeted Odell or how Baker has played when Odell's been off the field? Because we know Odell's a great player. So how do what do you make of that?
Not smart enough to make an argument for that, Jake. I'll just tell you, I would much rather have 13 on the field if available to us. He's not, so we'll make sure we have a plan to make sure we can move the ball any which way we can.
So along those lines, how do things change for you as a play caller, not having Odell Beckham out there? How do things change for Baker as a quarterback? Baker said you expect to see different defenses, people to play you differently. What are you expecting to see going forward?
Yeah, I think, Jake, that remains to be seen. I think we all have we talk about what we might see from the Raiders this week, the way they may view us, and then we got to see how that shakes out. But like we talked about on Monday, and I think you guys know this, I trust the guys we have. And we'll have multiple roles for some people, because you're not going to just plug and play one person for Odell. I don't think that's realistic. But we got a really good wide receiver room. Feel good about our tight ends, our running backs, so this is a team effort, and we're going to need a team effort to beat a good Raiders team on Sunday.
Thank you, Jake. Next up, Scott Petrick.
Hey, Kevin, on Monday, you weren't ready to rule out Wyatt Teller. Is there still a chance he plays, or do you think after the bye it's more likely?
Yeah, I still wouldn't rule him out today, Scott, but I'll know more, I think, tomorrow and Friday.
We saw what happened with the Raiders last week where they had one offensive lineman test positive and then everybody had to leave the building. Has that made you change any way you do anything, guys in meetings, anything like that?
Well, them specifically didn't make us change anything, but we are making slight adjustments to how we meet in an effort to space out and make sure there's no chance of any close contacts in our building.
So the goal is not to have anybody, if one guy tests positive, there's not a chain reaction with guys having to go home?
Yeah, we don't want any blinking red on this guy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Nate Ulrich.
Oh, sorry. When did that start, Kevin?
What's that?
You just said you guys were making changes to space.
Yeah, so today what we did was we kept our meetings virtual this morning for the practice squad so that the meeting rooms had a few less people in there so the guys could spread out even more in those meeting rooms. And we're just going to make sure that we adjusted, we won't have a afternoon meeting. We'll do those meetings on the field so we can spread out. And then we'll add a few more minutes in the morning to have those meetings that we typically would have in the afternoon. So it's not huge changes, but just trying to be as diligent as we can and limit the exposures and limit the chances of close contacts.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about Rashard Higgins real quick, and you had mentioned him earlier. First of all, to revisit that catch, when you to look at it and really see it, on replay, what went through your mind? Did you know he had that in him? And just what makes him so efficient when he does get the opportunities?
Yeah, he's got great ball skills. I think he's a savvy route runner. I think he understands coverage. I mean, that wasn't obviously a very impressive catch. I think just as impressive was the back shoulder that Baker threw to him earlier in the game. Just a great feel for how coverage causes maybe the ball to be in a different spot. And I just think that's a savviness that he has.
Thank you, Nate. Marla Ridenour, you're up.
Yeah, Coach, just a question about adjusting without Odell. I mean, you seems like it's going to be a work in progress, but will you have like multiple scenarios prepared, or will this kind of be adjusting on the fly for a little bit, or just wondering how you will approach it?
Yeah, Marla, I give a ton of credit to the offensive staff. Huddled up on Monday and made sure we had a plan moving forward. And, we have depth at that position. And then we got to make sure we use that depth to highlight the strengths of each one of those guys.
Was that a marathon session?
No, I mean, we're pretty efficient when we meet, but I think the guys understand what we're trying to do. And again, it just goes back to who do you have available to you, and let's go highlight their strengths.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Back to Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Kevin, I think you talked a little bit about this on Monday, but is there any possibility that Chubb is back after the bye week, November 15th? Not saying definitively either way, but is that a possibility?
That's a possibility, yes.
Thanks, Jake. Jeff Shadell.
Kevin, home field hasn't always been an advantage for the Browns. You guys are perfect there this year. How do you account for that?
I think those 12,000 fans are nice and loud. I think the guys love playing in that building, and we're excited to get out in front of our fans this week.
Thanks, Jeff. Back to Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, just the notion of chemistry and the way that Baker and Rashard kind of connect really well with each other. We've been seeing that here, for a long time. Is that something that maybe you almost had to see live in a game to realize the full impact of it, and that there really is sort of something special there?
Mary Kay, I tell you, I think you're right, but I also think it's just reps. I think you can't discount how many reps those guys have had together at practice. I think back to this summer or the spring when Austin Hooper went down and ran some routes for Baker. I mean, that's that's how you build a rapport there is just the sheer number of reps.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. We'll go to Tony Grossi, and this will be our last question for Coach.
Just a little one. Do you anticipate replacing Peoples-Jones as the return specialist just because he'll get more reps on offense?
I don't think so, Tony. No.